3:17 a.m. on a Saturday night. I step out of my government vehicle after an 18-hour drug trafficking operation that stretched from the state line to downtown. My hands still smell like diesel fuel and evidence bags. All I want is a hot shower and 6 hours of sleep before the paperwork nightmare begins Monday morning. That's when I see it. A bright pink violation notice plastered across my windshield like a neon middle finger. Parking violation. Unauthorized vehicle. Fine. $500. Towed in 24 hours. The adhesive already eating into my government-issued paint job. You know what the kicker is? Karen Wilson is standing at her second-floor window, coffee mug in hand, watching me read her little love note. At 3:17 in the morning, like she's been waiting for this moment. If you're watching Karenology, you know this isn't just about parking. It never is. My name's Marcus Webb, and I've been a federal agent for 23 years. Survived 3 shootouts, 2 divorce proceedings, and 1 congressional hearing that nearly ended my career. But nothing prepared me for suburban warfare with a homeowners association president who thinks she's running her own little kingdom. The badge on my chest chain catches the streetlight as I crumple that pink paper. 23 years of service, and some housewife with too much time thinks she can intimidate me with parking fees. Here's what you need to understand about federal vehicles. We don't exactly follow normal parking rules. Emergency responses, surveillance, protection details. We park where the job requires. My neighbors have seen me come and go at all hours for 15 years. Never been a problem. Until Karen Wilson got elected to run our homeowners association 6 months ago. The first sign of trouble was the new community standards she posted in our mailbox cluster. 47 pages of regulations that read like prison rules. Approved paint colors, lawn height measurements, garbage can, positioning guidelines, even rules about how many cars could be parked overnight. I threw it in the trash that day, figured it was just bureaucratic noise from someone who needed a hobby. That was my first mistake. By 8 a.m., my phone's buzzing with texts from neighbors. Emergency HOA meeting tonight. Urgent community safety issue. Your attendance is mandatory. I pour coffee and check the message thread. Karen sent photos of my vehicle to every resident, close-ups of my government plates, my tinted windows, even my federal law enforcement parking placard. She's labeled them suspicious activity documentation. The woman's built a case file against me like I'm some kind of criminal. 8:45 a.m. I'm in my driveway, washing government fingerprint powder off my hands when Karen marches over. She's wearing a purple tracksuit and carrying a clipboard like it's a weapon. Agent Webb. She says my title like it tastes sour. We need to discuss your vehicle situation. What situation? Your unauthorized parking in our community. She flips through papers on her clipboard. Section 12 of our revised community standards clearly states that commercial vehicles require prior written approval for overnight parking. It's not a commercial vehicle, it's federal law enforcement. Same difference. She taps her pen against the clipboard. Government vehicle equals commercial use. That's a violation of our residential zoning standards. Have you ever dealt with someone who thinks they know your job better than you do? Someone who takes 20 minutes to explain why you're wrong about something you've done professionally for 2 decades? That was Karen Wilson in my driveway, explaining federal vehicle regulations to a federal agent. Mrs. Wilson, I've been parking here for 15 years. Under the previous administration, yes, but we're implementing proper community standards now. Professional oversight. She straightens her shoulders like she's accepting a military command. The safety and property values of our residents come first. The morning sun hits her clipboard, and I catch sight of what she's really holding. Photos of my house, my car, my schedule patterns. She's been documenting my life like a surveillance operation. You've been watching me? I've been protecting our community. She points to a stack of papers. 17 residents have signed a petition requesting immediate action on your parking violations. People are concerned about unmarked government vehicles in our neighborhood. 17 signatures out of 89 houses. What kind of action? Karen smiles, and it's the kind of smile that makes your stomach drop. Tonight's emergency meeting will determine appropriate consequences. I suggest you attend if you want to have input on your own situation. She walks away, leaving me standing in my driveway with soap suds on my hands, and that pink violation notice flapping in the breeze like a surrender flag. Here's what I should have done right then. Should have called my supervisor, explained the situation, maybe gotten some departmental backing, should have researched homeowners association law, pulled some strings, handled it through official channels. Instead, I decided to handle it myself. That was my second mistake. The meeting's scheduled for 7 p.m. at the community center. All day I keep thinking about those 17 signatures. Neighbors I've known for years, people I've helped jumpstart cars and move furniture. Now they're signing petitions against me because some woman with a clipboard convinced them I'm a threat to their property values. 6:30 p.m., I'm putting on my best suit, federal agent formal, the kind of outfit that usually commands respect in courtrooms and congressional hearings. If Karen wants to play government official, I'll show her what real authority looks like. Walking into that community center feels like entering enemy territory, folding chairs arranged in military precision. Karen behind a table at the front, gavel in hand, looking like she's about to sentence me to life imprisonment. 87 neighbors in attendance, more than I've ever seen at these things. Karen calls the meeting to order with 3 sharp raps of that gavel. Tonight we address a serious community safety concern, Agent Webb's unauthorized use of our residential streets for commercial government parking. She's got a PowerPoint presentation, 17 slides detailing my violations, photos of my vehicle at different times of day, charts showing my irregular schedule patterns, a map marking my parking locations as security risks. Slide 12 shows my house at night, government car in the driveway, with a red circle highlighting my darkened windows. The caption reads, "Unknown activities, potential threat assessment." This woman has turned my job into a criminal investigation. Agent Webb parks unmarked vehicles at all hours, Karen announces to the room, brings unidentified visitors to our community, operates outside normal civilian oversight. Our families deserve to know what kind of activities are being conducted in their neighborhood. She clicks to the next slide, a photo of me helping my nephew carry boxes from my car last month. The caption, "Suspicious transfer, unidentified subjects, unknown materials." My nephew? 17 years old, helping me move evidence boxes to my home office for review. Standard procedure, completely legal, totally innocent. Karen's made it look like a drug deal. The room buzzes with whispers, neighbors turning to stare at me like I've been exposed as some kind of double agent. These are people who invited me to barbecues, borrowed my lawnmower, trusted me to watch their houses during vacations. Now they're looking at me like I don't belong here anymore. Therefore, Karen continues, the board recommends immediate enforcement action. $500 fine for each violation, retroactive to 6 months, professional vehicle removal within 30 days. If compliance isn't achieved, she pauses for dramatic effect. We'll be forced to pursue forced sale procedures under our Community Covenant Enforcement Clause. Forced sale. She wants to make me sell my house because I park my work car in my own driveway. That's when the badge chain around my neck starts feeling heavier than it ever has before. The gavel comes down like a judge's sentence. All in favor of enforcement action against Agent Webb's parking violations. 43 hands shoot up. 43 neighbors who think I'm some kind of security threat because Karen Wilson convinced them my government car makes their property values drop. 4 hands stay down. 4 people in this room still think I deserve basic respect. Motion carries. Karen's smile could cut glass. Agent Webb, you have 30 days to comply with community standards or face forced sale proceedings. I stand up, and 87 pairs of eyes follow me. The badge under my shirt feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. 23 years of federal service, and these people just voted me out of my own neighborhood. Mrs. Wilson, I'd like to see the documentation for this forced sale clause you mentioned. Of course. She slides a thick folder across the table. Everything's properly filed with county records. Legal review completed last month. Your signature is on the original homeowner's agreement from 15 years ago. I flip through pages of legal text, dense paragraphs about community standards, enforcement procedures, violation escalation protocols. The language is legitimate, professional. Someone spent serious money getting this drafted. At the bottom of page 37, I find my signature from when I bought the house, right next to a clause I never read about commercial vehicle restrictions and community safety enforcement. She's trapped me with my own paperwork from 15 years ago. Any questions, Agent Webb? Karen's voice carries across the silent room like a victory announcement. Just one. When did you become a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer, but my sister is. She helped draft these revised community standards to ensure full legal compliance. Karen straightens her papers with surgical precision. Professional oversight, like I mentioned. Her sister, a lawyer who helped design a legal trap, specifically targeting federal agents who park government vehicles in residential areas. This isn't random homeowners association drama. This is warfare. Walking out of that community center feels like leaving a funeral where I'm the corpse. Neighbors avoid eye contact, hurry to their cars, whisper behind hands. And Mrs. Patterson, who baked me cookies every Christmas for 10 years, won't even look in my direction. Jim Collins catches up with me in the parking lot. 73 years old, former sheriff's deputy, hands like tree roots and eyes that have seen everything worth seeing. Marcus, hold up. He glances around, making sure we're alone. That was a setup in there. Karen had those votes counted before the meeting started. You think? I know. Jim pulls a manila envelope from his jacket. Been doing some research since Karen took over. Found some interesting inconsistencies in our HOA records. He opens the envelope, shows me photocopied meeting minutes from 3 months ago. The handwriting's different on half the pages, names added in different ink, signatures that look traced. Karen's been editing meeting records after the fact, adding votes, changing decisions, making it look like the community supported her agenda all along. The parking lot lights buzz overhead while I study Jim's evidence. Meeting minutes from June, showing unanimous support for enhanced security measures. But Jim's copies show the original vote was 17 in favor, 21 against. Someone doctored the official records. How many meetings? At least 6 that I can prove. Probably more. Jim folds the papers back into the envelope. She's been rewriting history, Marcus, making herself look like she has community mandate for everything she does. Why are you telling me this? Because I took an oath once, same as you. His voice drops to sheriff's deputy level. Protect and serve doesn't end when you retire. And what she's doing to you, it's wrong. Jim hands me the envelope, but his expression warns this comes with conditions. There's something else you need to know. Karen's got allies on the county planning commission. Her sister isn't just helping with HOA legal work. She's been pushing through zoning changes that'll affect federal employee housing throughout the county. What kind of changes? Restrictions on government vehicle parking in residential zones, safety protocols for law enforcement personnel living in civilian communities, background check requirements for residents with federal security clearances. The pieces click together like evidence in a case file. This isn't about my parking. It's about removing federal agents from suburban neighborhoods entirely. Karen Wilson isn't just targeting me. She's targeting everyone like me. Jim, if you've got proof she's falsifying records, why not take it to the authorities yourself? His face goes gray under the parking lot lights. Because Karen already destroyed my landscaping business with anonymous complaints to county inspectors. 5 violations in 2 months, fines that cost me $12,000 and 3 major contracts. She went after your business? The day after I asked too many questions at a board meeting. Jim looks toward Karen's house, where lights glow in every window like a command center. Anyone who opposes her gets the same treatment. Code violations, zoning complaints, anonymous tips to every regulatory agency in the county. That's extortion. That's Karen Wilson's version of community leadership. Jim starts walking toward his truck, then turns back. Marcus, be careful who you trust with this information. Karen's got eyes and ears everywhere. Half the people in that meeting tonight report back to her. He drives away, leaving me standing alone with an envelope full of evidence that proves my homeowners association president is running a systematic campaign to control or destroy anyone who challenges her authority. Have you ever realized that the person trying to destroy your life is way more organized than you thought? That what feels like personal harassment is actually part of a larger operation? That's when the real fear kicks in, not fear of losing my house or paying fines. Fear that I'm dealing with someone who's been planning this longer and more carefully than I ever imagined. My phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. Violation notice number 2 issued. Government vehicles still present in violation of community standards. Additional fines assessed. HOA enforcement. It's midnight. Karen's people are monitoring my driveway around the clock. I walk to my government car and find another pink notice under the windshield wiper. This one's different. Professional printing, official letterhead, legal language that reads like a court document. Second violation, $1,000 penalty. Vehicle removal required within 72 hours. Non-compliance will result in emergency tow authorization. At the bottom, in smaller print, security photos taken for documentation purposes. Resident behavior patterns noted for community safety assessment. They're not just fining me, they're building a surveillance file. I look up at Karen's house and see a figure in the second floor window, watching, recording, planning the next move in whatever game she's playing. That's when I realize something that changes everything. The badge around my neck isn't just a symbol of authority. In Karen Wilson's world, it makes me the enemy. And enemies don't get to keep their houses. The 72-hour deadline hits me like a countdown timer on a bomb. Sunday morning, I'm standing in my kitchen with coffee that tastes like sawdust, staring at that pink tow notice, when my phone rings. Agent Webb, this is Captain Tom Riley, County Fire Department. We've received reports of hazardous materials storage at your residence. Need to conduct an emergency safety inspection. Hazardous materials? I don't have any hazardous materials. Anonymous tip says otherwise. Federal agent, chemical storage, potential community threat. We'll be there in 20 minutes. The line goes dead. Through my kitchen window, I can see Karen Wilson's silhouette in her upstairs window, phone pressed to her ear. She called in a bomb threat on my house. 20 minutes later, 3 fire trucks roll down our quiet suburban street like I'm running a meth lab. Sirens wailing, emergency lights painting every house red and blue. Captain Riley pounds on my door with the authority of someone expecting to find explosives. Agent Webb, we need immediate access for hazardous materials inspection. Captain, there are no hazardous materials in my house. Anonymous caller described chemical odors, suspicious containers, potential explosive devices. He pulls out official paperwork. Federal agent with unusual work patterns, late-night activities, unidentified visitors bringing unknown materials. I recognize that description. It's lifted word for word from Karen's PowerPoint presentation. Captain, would you mind if I call my supervisor to verify what federal agents are allowed to have in their homes? Sir, this is an emergency safety inspection. We don't need permission to protect the community. 47 neighbors stand on their front lawns watching firefighters ransack my house at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, searching through my closets, my office, my garage, looking for hazardous materials that don't exist. They find my work laptop, my evidence storage safe, my service weapon lockbox, all completely legal, properly secured, standard equipment for any federal agent. Captain Riley examines my gun, safe, like it's a nuclear device. This is a significant weapons cache for a residential area. It's 3 handguns and a shotgun, all registered, all legal. Anonymous caller said federal agents often maintain illegal weapons stockpiles. Karen Wilson created a story about me, called it in as a public safety threat, and convinced the fire department to conduct a raid on my house based on her imagination. The inspection takes 3 hours. 3 hours of neighbors watching firefighters carry evidence bags out of my house. 3 hours of whispered conversations across lawns about what kind of dangerous materials the federal agent was hiding. When they finally finish, Captain Riley hands me a clean inspection report. No hazardous materials found. Sorry for the inconvenience, Agent Webb. Captain, who made the anonymous call? Can't disclose that information, but I will say the caller seemed very knowledgeable about federal agent protocols, knew exactly what kinds of materials to report. He drives away, leaving me standing in my front yard with 47 neighbors staring at me like I just got released from prison. The damage is done. Karen turned a false emergency into a public spectacle that makes me look like a community threat. Mrs. Patterson approaches from across the street, walking like she's approaching a wild animal. Marcus, are you in some kind of trouble? No, ma'am, false alarm. But the fire department, all those trucks. She glances toward Karen's house. Karen said you might be involved in dangerous government work, things that could put the neighborhood at risk. Mrs. Patterson, I investigate financial crimes, bank fraud, money laundering, nothing dangerous. But the weapons they found? Standard service weapons, same as any police officer. She nods, but her eyes don't believe me. Karen's narrative is stronger than 15 years of me being a good neighbor. The woman who baked me Christmas cookies now thinks I'm a federal operative running dangerous missions from my suburban house. Maybe it would be better if you found somewhere else to live, Marcus. Somewhere more appropriate for your work situation. She walks away, leaving me alone in my driveway with the realization that Karen Wilson just turned my neighbors into strangers. My phone buzzes with another text from the unknown HOA number. Violation notice number 3 issued. Government vehicles still present. Emergency services required due to resident non-compliance. Additional penalties assessed. This time, the fine is $1,500, plus emergency response fees, plus administrative costs for coordinating the safety inspection. Total bill, $4,200 for parking my work car in my own driveway. That afternoon, I drive to Jim Collins' house with the envelope of evidence he gave me. Need to understand exactly how deep Karen's operation goes and what kind of legal weapons I'm dealing with. Jim's house sits on 3 acres at the end of Oak Street, surrounded by the kind of landscaping that takes decades to establish. Mature oaks, carefully planned garden beds, stone pathways that look like they grew naturally from the earth. Or used to look that way. Now his front yard is torn up like a construction site. Orange cones mark areas where county inspectors found code violations. Dead patches where his prize-winning rose bushes were ripped out for unapproved landscaping modifications. A pile of expensive stonework sits in a dumpster labeled non-compliant hardscaping. Jim, what happened here? Karen happened. He gestures toward the destruction. Week after I started asking questions about HOA records, county inspectors showed up. Unapproved plantings, unlicensed stonework, environmental violations. Everything I've built here for 20 years suddenly became illegal. How is that possible? Karen's sister sits on the county planning commission. Amazing how many new regulations got passed right before the inspections. Jim kicks at a chunk of broken stone. Cost me $12,000 to remove everything they said was non-compliant. Then another $8,000 in fines. $20,000? Plus loss of business contracts when word got out that I was under county investigation for illegal landscaping. Clients don't want to hire someone who can't even keep their own property legal. We walk through the ruins of what used to be Jim's professional showcase. Every detail that made his landscaping business successful has been systematically destroyed by code enforcement actions. Jim, show me exactly what you found in those HOA records. Inside his house, Jim spreads documents across his kitchen table, like a detective building a case file, meeting minutes with altered vote counts, financial reports with unexplained expenditures, board election results that don't match his personal notes from the meetings. Look at this. He points to meeting minutes from Karen's election as HOA president. Official record shows she won by 47 votes to 12. But I was there, Marcus. I counted. It was 26 to 23. She changed the vote count? More than that. She changed who voted, added names of people who weren't even at the meeting, removed names of people who voted against her. Jim flips through more pages. Karen didn't just win the election, she rewrote history to make it look like a landslide. The evidence is overwhelming. Systematic falsification of community records to create the appearance of broad support for Karen's policies. But it's also dangerous evidence for Jim to possess. Why didn't you take this to county authorities? Because Karen's sister reviews all county complaints about HOA governance. And Karen's brother-in-law works for the sheriff's department, and Karen's neighbor is married to a county commissioner. Jim closes the file folder. She's not just running the HOA, Marcus. She's connected to every level of local government that could stop her. That's when I understand the real scope of what I'm facing. This isn't suburban harassment. It's a coordinated campaign involving multiple levels of government, designed to remove federal agents from the community through legal and administrative pressure. Jim, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Go ahead. Are you willing to risk everything to stop her? Because if we move forward with this evidence, she's going to come after you harder than she already has. Jim looks through his kitchen window at the destroyed landscape that used to be his life's work. Marcus, she already took everything. My business, my reputation, my life savings. What else can she do to me? She can have you arrested on false charges. She can destroy your credit, ruin your relationships, make it impossible for you to live in this community. She's already doing that. Jim meets my eyes with the determination of someone who's got nothing left to lose. Question is, are you willing to risk your career to stop her? Because federal agents have a lot more to lose than retired sheriff's deputies. He's right. I've got 23 years of service, a federal pension, security clearance, professional reputation. Everything Karen's attacking is also everything I've spent my adult life building. But I also took an oath, same as Jim. Protect and serve doesn't end when someone with a clipboard decides you don't belong in their neighborhood. Jim, what do you need from me? Help me prove she's been falsifying government documents. That's a federal crime, isn't it? If falsifying official records is a felony, but we'd need more than meeting minutes. We'd need evidence that she knew the documents were false and used them to defraud the community. What about the money? What money? Jim pulls out a bank statement from the bottom of his evidence pile. HOA budget shows $47,000 spent on legal consulting fees over the past 6 months. But I called every law firm in the county. None of them show contracts with our homeowners association. Where did the money go? That's what we need to find out. Outside Jim's kitchen window, a black sedan drives slowly past his house. Tinted windows, government plates, the kind of car that doesn't belong in suburban neighborhoods unless someone's conducting surveillance. The car stops at the end of Jim's driveway, sits there for 30 seconds, then drives away. Jim, did you see that car before? Yeah, every day since I started asking questions about Karen. He closes the window blinds. Marcus, I think we're not the only ones watching Karen Wilson. That's when I realized this situation is bigger than homeowners association drama. Someone else is investigating Karen's operation, someone with government resources and surveillance capabilities. The question is whether they're trying to stop her or protect her. Monday morning hits like a freight train carrying bad news. I'm barely through my first cup of coffee when my phone rings with a number I recognize, my supervisor's direct line. Webb, we need to talk. My office, 30 minutes. Special agent in charge. Patricia Morse doesn't waste words, especially at 7 a.m. 26 years with the Bureau, built like a steel beam, and about as forgiving as a tax audit when something threatens her agents. What's this about? Your housing situation. Apparently it's become a federal issue. The line goes dead. I stare at my government vehicle sitting in the driveway, now decorated with its third pink violation notice in 4 days. Someone's been busy while I was sleeping. Driving to the federal building, I pass 3 neighbors who won't make eye contact. Mrs. Patterson pretends to check her mailbox. The Hendersons suddenly find their lawn fascinating. Karen Wilson's character assassination is working exactly as planned. SAC Morse's office overlooks downtown from the 15th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, federal seal on the wall, and a desk that's seen more classified briefings than most senators. She's got a file folder waiting for me, thick enough to choke a horse. Sit down, Webb. We've got a problem. She slides the folder across her desk. Inside are photographs of my house, my car, my daily routine. Professional surveillance shots taken with telephoto lenses from multiple angles over several weeks. Someone's been documenting your personal life with government-grade equipment. Ma'am, I can explain. Let me finish. She pulls out more documents. County Planning Commission received a formal complaint about federal agents using residential properties for classified operations. Homeowners Association claiming you're conducting illegal surveillance from your house. That's ridiculous. Gets better. Anonymous tip to the Inspector General's office suggesting you're using government resources for personal business. Someone claiming you've been intimidating civilians with your federal authority. The photographs show me talking to Jim Collins, examining documents, looking exactly like a federal agent conducting an unauthorized investigation in a civilian neighborhood. Ma'am, these photos were taken by someone with professional surveillance training. That's what worries me. SAC Morse closes the folder. Webb, how well do you know your neighbors? Well enough, lived there 15 years. Any of them have connections to federal law enforcement, intelligence agencies, private security firms? I think about Karen's sister, the lawyer, her brother-in-law in the sheriff's department, her neighbor married to a county commissioner. The HOA president seems unusually well connected for a housewife. Karen Wilson, 48 years old, married to David Wilson, retired Defense Department contractor. Sister is Patricia Martinez, county attorney. Brother-in-law is Deputy Sheriff Robert Martinez. You ran a background check? I ran a full field investigation. SAC Morse opens another folder. Karen Wilson worked for a private intelligence firm for 12 years before becoming a homemaker. Specialized in domestic surveillance operations targeting government employees. The room temperature drops about 20 degrees. She's a professional? Former professional. Her company held contracts with 3-letter agencies for conducting lifestyle assessments of federal personnel. Background security checks, but unofficial. The kind where they watch your daily routine, catalog your personal relationships, identify potential vulnerabilities. She's been running surveillance on me? She's been running surveillance on every federal employee in a 50-mile radius. Your neighborhood was specifically chosen as a target-rich environment. 47 government employees live within your homeowners association boundaries. I stare at the surveillance photos spread across SAC Morse's desk. Professional-grade equipment, tactical positioning, systematic documentation. This isn't suburban harassment. It's a counterintelligence operation. Ma'am, why target federal agents living in civilian communities? Best guess, someone wants to identify which agents can be pressured, blackmailed, or compromised through their personal lives. Create files on their financial situations, family relationships, personal weaknesses. Foreign intelligence? Could be domestic, could be private contractors building databases to sell to the highest bidder. SAC Morse leans back in her chair. Point is, you're not dealing with an angry housewife. You're dealing with someone who's been trained to destroy people like us. The pieces fall together like evidence in a conspiracy case. The systematic targeting, the legal expertise, the coordinated pressure from multiple government agencies. Karen Wilson isn't just trying to remove me from the neighborhood. She's building a case file that could end my career. What do you want me to do? Officially, nothing. This is a personal matter between you and your homeowners association. Bureau can't get involved in civilian disputes. And unofficially, SAC Morse slides another document across the desk. Counterintelligence is opening a preliminary investigation into potential targeting of federal personnel. If you happen to observe any suspicious activity in your neighborhood, you're required to report it. You want me to investigate my own neighbors? I want you to protect yourself and your fellow agents from what appears to be a systematic intelligence gathering operation. She stands up, walks to the window overlooking the city. Webb, how many of your neighbors know what kind of cases you work? None of them. I keep work and home completely separate. Karen Wilson knows. Her complaint files reference your involvement in financial crimes, money laundering investigations, even specific case numbers from operations that haven't been made public. The coffee in my stomach turns to acid. She's got access to classified information. Someone does. Question is how she got it and what she's planning to do with it. I drive back to my neighborhood with a completely different understanding of what I'm facing. The pink parking violations, the emergency inspections, the neighbor complaints, all designed to create stress, financial pressure, social isolation. Classic techniques for softening up a target before the real attack begins. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Community meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Your attendance is mandatory. Final notice regarding compliance violations. This time, Karen's not just calling a meeting. She's issuing a summons. That evening, walking into the community center feels like entering a courtroom where I'm already convicted. Same folding chairs, same hostile faces, but now I see them differently. 47 government employees in this neighborhood, and Karen's got files on every single one of us. She's behind the table again, but tonight she's not alone. A man in an expensive suit sits beside her, briefcase open, legal documents spread across the table like ammunition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending tonight's emergency session. I'm pleased to introduce David Peterson, our legal counsel, who will be presenting the community's options for addressing ongoing compliance violations. Peterson stands up with the confidence of someone who's never lost a case. Good evening. I represent the Homeowners Association in matters of covenant enforcement and community safety. Tonight, we're addressing a serious situation involving a resident who refuses to comply with established community standards. He clicks a remote, and a projection screen displays my house. High-resolution photos taken with professional equipment, showing my government vehicle from multiple angles. Agent Webb's continued violation of parking restrictions represents a broader pattern of disregard for community authority. His use of residential property for government operations creates security risks that compromise every family in this neighborhood. The presentation continues with slides I've never seen before, photos of me talking to Jim Collins, images of documents spread across Jim's kitchen table, even pictures of me meeting with SAC Morse at the federal building. Agent Webb has been conducting unauthorized investigations into community members, using his federal authority to intimidate residents who support proper governance. This represents a clear abuse of power that cannot be tolerated. They've been watching me investigate Karen while she was investigating me. Every move I've made, every conversation I've had, every piece of evidence I've gathered, she's documented all of it. Therefore, the board recommends immediate action under our Emergency Powers Clause. Agent Webb will be assessed maximum penalties for all violations, totaling $17,000 in fines and administrative costs. Payment is due within 72 hours. And if I refuse to pay? Peterson smiles like a shark who's found wounded prey. Then we proceed with forced sale proceedings. Your house will be sold at auction to recover community costs and damages. You can't force me to sell my house. Actually, we can. He slides a document across the table. Your homeowner's agreement includes specific language about federal employees who use residential property for official government business. Violation of this clause triggers immediate covenant enforcement action. I read the document, and my heart sinks. The language is there, buried in paragraph 43 of the original agreement I signed 15 years ago. A clause specifically targeting federal agents who bring their work home. Karen Wilson didn't just move into my neighborhood. She researched every legal tool available to remove federal agents, then got herself elected to a position where she could use them. Ladies and gentlemen, Peterson continues, this is about protecting our community from residents who think federal authority exempts them from local rules. Agent Webb represents a pattern of federal overreach that threatens the safety and property values of law-abiding citizens. The room erupts in applause, 87 neighbors clapping for my destruction, convinced that I'm the threat to their community. But I notice something Peterson and Karen don't expect. Jim Collins isn't applauding. Neither are 6 other residents scattered throughout the room. They're watching the presentation with the same suspicious expression I've learned to recognize in counterintelligence briefings. The look of people who know they are being manipulated. That's when I realized Karen Wilson made a tactical error. She's so confident in her control over the community that she revealed the scope of her surveillance operation. Tonight's presentation proves she's got access to classified federal information and professional surveillance equipment, evidence of espionage activities that could bring down her entire operation. If I can survive the next 72 hours, 72 hours to pay $17,000 or lose my house. I sit in my kitchen at midnight, staring at Karen's ultimatum when my phone rings with a number that makes my blood freeze. Internal Affairs. Agent Webb, this is Inspector Janet Rodriguez. We need to schedule an immediate interview regarding allegations of misconduct in your personal residence. What allegations? Using federal resources for unauthorized surveillance of civilian residents. Intimidation of homeowners association members, abuse of authority in a residential community. Her voice carries the clinical detachment of someone reading charges. How's tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Inspector, I haven't used any federal resources inappropriately. Anonymous complaint says otherwise. Detailed documentation of your activities, including surveillance photos and recorded conversations. Someone's built a comprehensive case against you, Agent Webb. The line goes dead. I walk to my front window and see Karen's house blazing with lights at 12:30 a.m. She's not sleeping, she's coordinating. This isn't just about parking violations anymore. Karen's using my own investigation against me, turning my efforts to expose her into evidence of federal misconduct. Every conversation with Jim Collins, every document I examined, every meeting with my supervisor, She's documented it all and framed it as abuse of authority. By morning, I'll be facing internal affairs charges that could end my career. By Thursday, I'll be facing foreclosure on my house. Karen Wilson has orchestrated a perfect trap that destroys both my professional and personal life simultaneously. But she made one mistake. She showed me exactly how professional her operation really is. At 3 a.m., I drive to Jim Collins' house. His landscape disaster looks even worse in the darkness. Broken stone and dead plants creating shadows like a battlefield. But Jim's awake, sitting on his porch with coffee, and the grim expression of someone who's been expecting bad news. "Marcus, we're in trouble." "How much trouble?" "County Sheriff's Department called an hour ago. Anonymous tip about illegal weapon storage at my property. They're coming with a search warrant at 6 a.m. The same playbook she used on me. Gets worse. My insurance company received a complaint about unsafe landscaping practices that might void my homeowner's policy. My bank got an anonymous tip about financial irregularities that triggered a credit review." Jim lights a cigarette with shaking hands. "She's destroying me from 6 different directions at once." We sit in the darkness, 2 men watching their lives get dismantled by someone who's turned harassment into a science. "Jim, I need to know something. Are you willing to go all the way with this? Because what I'm thinking could get us both arrested if it goes wrong." "What are you thinking?" "Karen's surveillance operation proves she's got access to classified federal information. That's espionage. But we need evidence that'll stand up in federal court." "You want to break into her house?" "I want to catch her in the act of accessing classified databases, document her surveillance equipment, prove she's running an intelligence operation against federal personnel." Jim stubs out his cigarette. "That's entrapment, and breaking and entering, and probably a dozen other felonies. It's also the only way to stop her before she destroys every federal agent in this neighborhood." "What do you need from me?" "Distraction. Tomorrow night, when sheriff's deputies are searching your house, I need Karen focused on coordinating that operation. While she's busy managing your destruction, I'll be documenting hers. And if we get caught, then we go to federal prison for trying to stop a counterintelligence operation that's been targeting American agents for months." Jim looks at the ruins of his landscaping business, then back at me. "Marcus, you know what the real problem is? We're the good guys, and she's better at this than we are." "Maybe, but she's never faced someone with nothing left to lose." Tuesday passes like waiting for execution. Internal affairs interview at 9 a.m., where Inspector Rodriguez grills me for 3 hours about inappropriate use of federal authority in civilian disputes. She's got photos, documents, recorded conversations, a complete file that makes me look like a rogue agent harassing innocent citizens. "Agent Webb, did you or did you not conduct unauthorized surveillance of Mrs. Karen Wilson's residence?" "I observed suspicious activity in my neighborhood and reported it to my supervisor." "Did you or did you not use federal databases to research civilian residents without official justification?" "I conducted background checks consistent with counterintelligence protocols." "Did you or did you not threaten Mrs. Wilson with federal prosecution if she didn't cease homeowners association enforcement activities?" "I never threatened anyone." Rodriguez slides a recording device across the table. This says otherwise. She plays a conversation I've never heard before. My voice unmistakably threatening Karen Wilson with federal charges if she doesn't back off. The audio quality is perfect. The words are exactly what an aggressive federal agent might say to intimidate a civilian. Except I never said them. "Inspector, that recording is fabricated." "Voice analysis confirms it's your voice, Agent Webb." "Then it's been digitally manipulated. I never had that conversation." "Mrs. Wilson says otherwise. She has witnesses who heard you make those threats during a confrontation at her residence." Karen Wilson has created synthetic audio evidence that perfectly mimics my voice-making criminal threats I never uttered. This isn't amateur hour harassment. This is military-grade psychological warfare. "Inspector, I need to report something that affects national security." "Agent Webb, you're not in a position to report anything. You're under investigation for serious misconduct that could result in criminal charges. By 6 p.m., I'm suspended pending investigation. By 7 p.m., sheriff's deputies are ransacking Jim Collins' house looking for illegal weapons that don't exist. By 8 p.m., Karen Wilson is standing in her second-floor window, orchestrating the destruction of two men who dared to challenge her authority. That's when I make the decision that changes everything. Instead of waiting for Karen to destroy us through legal channels, I'm going to expose her the way federal agents handle espionage threats, with evidence, documentation, and professional law enforcement techniques that turn her own surveillance operation against her. At 9 p.m., while Karen's focused on managing Jim's arrest for weapons violations that materialized out of thin air, I approach her house from the wooded area behind her property. Federal training kicks in. Movement techniques, observation protocols, evidence collection procedures. Karen Wilson taught me something important tonight. She's not just a homeowners association president with too much time. She's a former intelligence operative running an active counterintelligence operation against American federal agents. But I'm not just a federal agent with parking problems. I'm a counterintelligence target who's about to become a counterintelligence operator. Through her back windows, I can see Karen's home office. Multiple computer monitors, professional communications equipment, filing cabinets that look like they belong in a secure facility. This isn't suburban housewife territory. This is a command center. She's on the phone with someone, gesturing at surveillance photos spread across her desk. Photos of me, Jim Collins, and 6 other people I don't recognize. All federal agents based on the government identification cards visible in the pictures. Karen Wilson isn't just targeting me. She's running files on multiple federal agents, building psychological profiles, identifying pressure points that can be exploited to compromise or remove them from the community. But she's also creating evidence of espionage activities that violate about 15 different federal statutes. I activate the recording app on my phone and document everything visible through her windows: computer equipment, surveillance photos, federal personnel files, communications gear that requires security clearances to operate. Evidence that Karen Wilson is running an active intelligence operation against American federal agents from her suburban house. That's when I see something that changes the entire game. On her desk, clearly visible through the window, is a federal badge and identification card that doesn't belong to her. She's got a federal agent's credentials in her possession. Either she's stolen federal identification, or she's got a federal agent working for her operation. Either way, Karen Wilson just graduated from harassment to treason. The question is whether I can prove it before she finishes destroying my life. The federal badge on Karen's desk belongs to Agent Sarah Chen from the Financial Crimes Division. I recognize her ID photo from bureau briefings, 34 years old, 12 years of service, spotless record. The same Sarah Chen who was supposed to testify in a major money laundering case next week. Karen Wilson has a federal agent's credentials, which means either Sarah's been compromised or she's dead. I'm documenting everything through the window when Karen's phone conversation becomes audible. She's talking to someone with authority, giving orders like a field commander. Webb's internal affairs hearing tomorrow will finish him. Collins is in county lockup on weapons charges. That leaves 6 more targets in the neighborhood before we move to the next phase. Next phase. This operation extends beyond my neighborhood. Yes, the federal identification was delivered as requested. Chen won't be testifying next week. Her cooperation has been secured. My blood goes cold. Sarah Chen isn't working for Karen. She's been neutralized to prevent her testimony in a federal case. The synthetic audio worked perfectly. Webb's voice analysis came back clean because it is his voice, just rearranged from recorded phone conversations. Amazing what AI can do with enough sample material. Karen Wilson has access to voice synthesis technology that can fabricate perfect audio evidence using samples from phone calls. Every conversation I've had on government lines has been recorded and weaponized against me. Phase 2 begins once we clear the remaining federal agents from this sector. Then we expand to the other target neighborhoods throughout the county. She's not just running a homeowners association. She's conducting systematic removal of federal agents from multiple residential areas. I'm recording her conversation when motion sensors trigger security lights around her property. Karen stops talking, walks to the window, looks directly at my position in the woods. We have a problem. Webb's conducting surveillance on my residence. Yes, right now. She describes my location, my clothing, even the phone I'm using to record her. Karen Wilson has thermal imaging equipment that detected me through heavy tree cover. Send the response team. It's time to resolve the web situation permanently. Response team. This isn't suburban harassment anymore. Karen's got tactical support that responds to threats against her operation. I back away from her house, but it's too late. Vehicle lights sweep across the woods from 3 different directions. Professional search patterns, coordinated movement, the kind of response that suggests military or law enforcement training. They're not here to arrest me. They're here to eliminate a federal agent who discovered too much about their operation. I run through the woods toward my house, using federal training to avoid the search teams, but they know the terrain better than I do, and they've got night vision equipment that makes darkness useless for concealment. My phone buzzes with an incoming call from SAC Morse's emergency line. Webb, where are you? In the woods behind Karen Wilson's house. She's running an active counterintelligence operation. Ma'am, Agent Sarah Chen's credentials are in Karen's possession. Sarah Chen's been missing for 48 hours. We thought she was undercover on the money laundering case. She's been compromised. Karen's neutralized her to prevent testimony. And there's more. Systematic targeting of federal agents, voice synthesis technology, tactical response teams. Webb, get out of there now. We're sending backup. No time, they've got me surrounded. I reach my backyard fence as flashlight beams sweep through the trees behind me. 3 vehicles in the street, positioned to block escape routes. Karen Wilson's response team is professional, coordinated, and equipped for eliminating problems. But they made one tactical error. They assumed I'd run toward my house. Instead, I head for Jim Collins' property. 3 acres of destroyed landscaping provide cover, and Jim's sheriff's department training means he's got defensive capabilities they might not expect. I find Jim sitting on his back porch with a shotgun across his knees, watching vehicle lights sweep through the neighborhood. They came for you fast, he says. How long have you been expecting this? Since they arrested me 6 hours ago on fabricated weapons charges, then released me 2 hours later with no explanation. Jim Chambers around in his shotgun. County sheriff got a phone call from someone with federal authority. Case dismissed, records sealed, deputy who made the arrest transferred to another county. Karen's got people inside law enforcement. Karen's got people inside everything. Question is, what are we going to do about it? I show Jim the recordings from Karen's house. Her conversation about eliminating federal agents, the federal identification on her desk, the systematic operation targeting government employees throughout the county. This proves she's running espionage activities against American agents. It also proves we're both dead men if we don't stop her tonight. The tactical teams are expanding their search pattern, moving through the neighborhood with military precision. Professional operators using federal-grade equipment to hunt down a federal agent who discovered their operation. Jim, I need to ask you something that might save both our lives. Go ahead. How much do you know about Karen Wilson's background before she moved here? Not much. Showed up 3 years ago, bought the biggest house in the neighborhood with cash, got elected to the HOA board within 6 months. SAC Morse ran a background check. Karen worked for a private intelligence firm that conducted surveillance on federal employees. Her company held contracts with intelligence agencies. So she's a professional. Former professional, but someone's funding her current operation. Professional surveillance equipment, tactical response teams, voice synthesis technology. That's millions of dollars in resources. Who has that kind of money and wants federal agents neutralized? That's the question that changes everything. Karen Wilson isn't just a rogue operative. She's working for someone with the resources and motivation to systematically compromise American federal agents. Foreign intelligence, domestic terrorists, criminal organizations facing federal prosecution, or someone inside the federal government who wants specific agents eliminated. Jim, we need to get this evidence to people Karen can't reach or control. Like who? FBI counterintelligence headquarters, CIA domestic security, people so high up the chain that Karen's connections can't touch them. How do we do that when her response teams have us surrounded? I look at the tactical lights sweeping through Jim's property, then at the recording device that contains proof of Karen Wilson's espionage operation. We don't try to escape. We make them come to us. You want to fight a professional tactical team with one retired deputy and one suspended federal agent? I want to create a situation so public and documented that Karen can't make us disappear quietly. I call 911 on speakerphone, making sure the call is recorded and tracked. This is Federal Agent Marcus Webb, badge number 7749. I'm reporting an active counterintelligence threat at 1247 Oak Street. Multiple armed subjects conducting illegal surveillance of federal personnel. I need immediate backup from FBI, counterintelligence, and local law enforcement. Sir, are you in immediate danger? Affirmative. Armed subjects surrounding my location. This is a federal emergency involving espionage activities against American agents. The dispatcher confirms my location, badge number, and emergency status. Creates an official record that federal authorities will investigate regardless of what happens to Jim and me tonight. Now what? Jim asks. Now we wait for Karen Wilson to make the biggest mistake of her professional career. What mistake? She's going to try to kill 2 American citizens who just called for federal backup. That's not harassment or surveillance. That's domestic terrorism. And if backup doesn't arrive in time, then at least there's a recorded 911 call that'll expose her operation when they find our bodies. The tactical teams are closing in, but now they're operating under federal surveillance. Every move they make is being tracked by emergency dispatch, recorded by 911 systems, and investigated by agencies Karen Wilson can't control or compromise. She's spent months building a perfect trap for federal agents. Tonight, she's about to discover that federal agents know how to turn traps into ambushes. The sirens start wailing from 3 different directions. County sheriff, state police, and federal response teams converging on Oak Street like we called in a terrorist attack. Which technically we did. Karen Wilson's tactical teams hear the sirens and make their fatal error. Instead of withdrawing quietly, they accelerate their operation. Floodlights sweep across Jim's property as armed figures move through the darkness toward our position. They're committed now. No way to explain away a tactical assault on 2 American citizens who just called 911 for federal backup. "Marcus, they're coming fast," Jim whispers, tracking movement through his rifle scope. Let them come. Every step they take is being recorded by emergency dispatch. My phone rings with SAC Morse's number. Webb, federal response teams are 2 minutes out. Can you maintain your position? Affirmative. But ma'am, these aren't local criminals. This is a coordinated operation with professional tactical support. Understood. We've got counterintelligence units en route. Whatever you've stumbled into, it's bigger than homeowners association harassment. The first tactical team reaches Jim's back porch, moving with military precision through the destroyed landscaping. Night vision, tactical communications, suppressed weapons. This is special operations level capability being used against 2 civilians in a suburban neighborhood. "Federal agents, identify yourselves," I shout, hoping they'll realize the situation has changed. Instead of responding, they advance. No verbal warnings, no attempt at de-escalation. These operators have orders to eliminate witnesses regardless of law enforcement response. That's when I know Karen Wilson's operation is facing exposure that could destroy more than just a neighborhood intelligence network. We've uncovered something worth killing federal agents to protect. The tactical lights go out simultaneously as the teams prepare for assault. Professional coordination that suggests extensive training and resources. But they don't know Jim Collins spent 20 years as a sheriff's deputy in terrain he's intimately familiar with. Every stone pile, every destroyed garden bed, every shadow that provides tactical advantage. Now, Jim whispers, emergency flares ignite across his property, turning tactical darkness into blazing visibility. Jim's prepared for this confrontation, using his destroyed landscaping to create defensive positions and illumination fields. The assault teams are caught in open ground, exposed and identified by emergency lighting that reveals their faces, equipment, and tactical positions. "Federal backup arriving." SAC Morse's voice crackles through my phone. "Hold position." FBI vehicles scream into the neighborhood as Karen Wilson's operation collapses in real time. Tactical teams trying to eliminate witnesses, while federal agents establish perimeter security around an active espionage investigation. Through the chaos, I see Karen Wilson in her second-floor window, frantically destroying documents and communications equipment. She knows her operation is finished, but she's still trying to eliminate evidence. Jim, I need to get to Karen's house before she destroys everything. Go. I'll handle the cleanup here. I sprint across the street as FBI agents engage Karen's tactical teams in a firefight that sounds like urban warfare. Professional operators versus federal response teams in suburban America. Karen's front door is locked, but federal agents don't knock politely when pursuing espionage suspects. I kick it in, drawing my service weapon as I clear rooms looking for Karen and her intelligence materials. She's in her home office feeding documents into a commercial shredder while wiping computer hard drives. Systematic destruction of evidence that could expose a counterintelligence operation spanning multiple states. Karen Wilson, federal agent. You're under arrest for espionage activities against United States personnel. She turns around with the cold expression of someone who's been caught but isn't surprised. Professional acceptance of operational failure. Agent Webb, you've caused considerable disruption to a legitimate security operation. Legitimate? You've been running illegal surveillance against federal agents. I've been identifying federal personnel who represent security risks to their communities. Some agents bring their work home in ways that compromise civilian safety. And Sarah Chen was neutralizing her testimony also about community safety. Karen's expression shifts to something like respect. You found more than I expected. Yes, Agent Chen's testimony would have damaged important financial investigations. Her cooperation was redirected. Where is she? Safe, relocated. Her testimony has been replaced with more appropriate information that serves national security interests. Karen Wilson isn't just running a rogue operation. She's working for someone inside the federal government who's manipulating criminal cases by neutralizing witnesses and eliminating problematic agents. Who's funding your operation? People who understand that federal law enforcement has become too independent, too willing to investigate areas that should remain classified. Karen continues destroying documents while talking. Your financial crimes unit, for example, getting too close to transactions that involve national security assets. What transactions? Agent Webb, you've been investigating money laundering operations that fund legitimate intelligence activities. Your testimony in next month's case would expose financial networks that protect American interests globally. The pieces fall together like evidence in a conspiracy case. Karen's operation isn't targeting random federal agents. She's eliminating specific agents whose testimony could expose classified financial operations that someone wants protected. You're working for CIAs. I'm working for Americans who understand that some secrets are worth protecting. Karen finishes shredding her files, then faces me with professional calm. Agent Webb, you have a choice. Walk away from your money laundering investigation, accept reassignment to a less sensitive division, and this all ends quietly. And if I refuse? Then you join Agent Chen in protective relocation, permanent assignment to duties that don't threaten national security operations. Karen Wilson is offering me the same deal Sarah Chen received, cooperate or disappear. There's a third option, which is arrest you for espionage and let federal prosecutors sort out who authorized your operation. Karen laughs, but it's not humor. It's the sound of someone who knows things I don't understand. Agent Webb, the people who authorized my operation are the same people who will decide whether your arrest report ever reaches prosecutors. You're a GS-13 investigating financial crimes. I'm protecting operations that involve deputy directors and congressional oversight committees. She's right. If Karen's operation has authorization from senior federal officials, my evidence might disappear into classified channels that I can't access or challenge. But she's wrong about one thing. Jim Collins and I didn't just collect evidence tonight. We created a public record that involves local law enforcement, emergency dispatch, and federal response teams that can't be classified away. Karen, you made one mistake. You tried to kill us in front of witnesses who called 911. That created documentation that even deputy directors can't make disappear. Her confidence wavers for the first time tonight. The tactical teams, the firearms, the assault on American citizens, that's all recorded by emergency services. Even if your operation has federal authorization, attempted murder of federal agents crosses lines that nobody can ignore. Karen Wilson realizes her professional operation just became a public criminal case that exposes everything she's been trying to protect. FBI agents storm into her office, taking her into custody while securing intelligence materials that'll expose a counterintelligence operation targeting American federal agents. But I know this isn't over. Karen Wilson was middle management in something bigger. Someone authorized her operation, funded her resources, and directed her activities. The question is whether federal investigators will find those people or whether those people will find ways to make this investigation disappear. 6 months later, I'm still living at 1247 Oak Street. Karen Wilson is serving 15 years in federal prison for espionage activities. Her tactical teams were foreign intelligence operatives who will be exchanged for American prisoners in classified negotiations. The money laundering case I was investigating got transferred to a different division. Agent Sarah Chen returned to duty with no memory of her disappearance and no interest in discussing what happened during her absence. Jim Collins rebuilt his landscaping business with contracts from federal facilities that appreciate his discretion about security matters. And I learned something important about the neighborhood I live in. Sometimes the people trying to destroy your life aren't criminals or terrorists. Sometimes they're Americans who think protecting secrets is more important than protecting citizens. The badge around my neck feels heavier now, not because of the authority it represents, but because of the responsibility it carries to protect people from their own government, when that government forgets who it's supposed to serve. Have you ever wondered how many Karen Wilsons are operating in communities across America? How many federal agents have been neutralized, relocated, or eliminated to protect operations that somebody decided were more important than justice? If you're watching Karenology, you know the answer. More than we want to believe, fewer than they want us to fear. But enough that every federal agent should check their homeowners association agreements very carefully. Because sometimes the biggest threats to American agents come from Americans who've forgotten what America is supposed to represent.